Kristy.
Hi, Sabina. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Amazing. Thanks
So,
for having me here.
thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So, for the people that are listening, on my couch today is Kristy Suckling, who is an amazing woman. She is responsible for all our raw tumblers and our mugs. She's a potter, she's a therapist, she's a great friend, and I'm just happy to have you here. So,
Awesome.
we talked about this, I don't know how long ago.
Well over a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably a year and a half.
Yeah, you were at the live show and we were sitting at Milestones. Remember talking about this? And I'm like, I don't
Absolutely.
think I can do this, Kristy. I don't think I can do this. You're like, you can do this.
Look
So,
at you. Yeah, here
yeah,
you are.
here I am. So, there's been a little bit of your life that we've kind of disconnected a little bit, and I know a lot has
Yes.
happened.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to get right into it.
All right, go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah.
So, first question that I ask everybody, what does authenticity mean to you?
Oh, showing up as my true self, something that actually feels like me on the inside. So it has to really resonate. If I get that weird gut feeling that it's not me, then I know right away. Um, I think anybody knows when somebody's not being authentic with them, right? You can just,
You can sense it,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
exactly. That's right. So I think it just means showing up as what truly resonates with us.
Amazing. Love that answer. And I think that I've asked a few people this question today, and there's been varying answers, but I think at the root of it all, everyone has said what feels right within you, right?
Yeah.
So, which is great. So, there's so many questions I have for you, but I think I want to hear about your love story.
Oh,
Like, if you're
geez.
comfortable talking about this, like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So what do you want to know? What do you want to
I
know here?
want you, I just think your story is so beautiful because in the dating world, I think a lot of people get discouraged. I think that people think that you can't find true love, and maybe I'm stepping over by putting words in your
Oh,
mouth.
yeah.
But I do feel that you have found your true love, but I love
Yeah.
the way it all came together. So let's just kind of talk about how you met him, what's going on, and
Yeah. So yeah, we met when he was here last April, when he was visiting his kids. Did not meet to with the intention of dating. It was just kind of me telling him, filling him in on what he could do around here. Apparently, I took enough effort and time to tell him what to do that he found that charming. And so then we decided to go on a date before he left back to Australia. We went down to Two Forks in Port Stanley, where we love to eat.
yes.
And it went so he showed up with a dozen roses. So that kind of hit it out of the park right there. And yeah, right away, well, actually, before we met, we had talked for a bit, and then he asked me for a date. So I said, well, I'd been doing online dating enough. I was at the point now, it was like, well, you know what? Either a phone call or a video call, like before we even meet, I'm not wasting my time. And so we did a video chat and
Mhm.
and hit it off. And so then we went on the date in person. And then we spent about 4 or 5 days together hanging out until he left for Australia. The odd thing was is that I dated a number of men in, an hour or two away. And I always thought, oh, that's too far, very far, way too far. And and then as I was driving to Toronto to see him off that night, I thought, well, I dated a guy that lived there in Cambridge. Oh, well, I dated a guy that lived in Kitchener, and I dated a guy in Mississauga. And I thought, oh, these guys all seem too far. And here I am going to go to the airport where he's going to fly away to Australia. And at that point, I really didn't have a concept of whether or not we were dating or how far Australia really was. I knew it was on the other side of the world. And then from there, we just kind of hit it off. We decided to chat for a while. Definitely decided that we were dating exclusively, and we would meet again in the summer. That we did. He came back, and then I had already booked my tickets to go there in September for a few months, and then again in the following December for another few months. And so we went to Bali when I was there in September, and then we did a whole bunch of exploring all over Australia in September, October, and then also in January, February, March when I was there. And then he flew back with me. He was here for a month. And now I'm meeting him in Calgary in July. And then I go again, September 6th, I leave. So yeah.
Okay,
So
did you just know? Like, did you just know that this was the guy that you're willing to go across the world for?
well, I certainly it did take long before I booked a trip to go somewhere where I'd only known somebody for 4 or 5 days, and within about a month I was booking that trip. Um, So there was something inside me that definitely knew, like I really valued him and how he was. I remember in that first like week that we met, he wanted to do couples yoga, stuff like that, right? I'm like,
Right,
couples yoga, who is this guy, right?
right,
And just, the depth of conversation. So I definitely knew I was into him and that I was willing to get to know more about him, right? Obviously, the pressure's not really on very hard when the person that you're with lives 20,000 kilometers away, right?
right,
It's not like, he's going to rock up to your house you're not going to spend too much time with the person, right? So it was easy to take our time to get to know each other on a spiritual and mental and intellectual level as opposed to a physical level, right?
right.
And too often in relationships, we get to know each other through physicality,
Hmm.
which actually can kind of make us perceive that we're in love because of the amount of pheromones and the intensity of the dopamine release that we're getting when we're with that person, the honeymoon stage. So when we're not with them, we actually have to get to know them on a different level, which allowed me that perspective shift, right? And it was really good. It's gone very well. We're like two peas in a pod. It's just that the pods are on the opposite side of the world.
Right. So, what is the biggest struggle with dating someone that is so far
Oh,
away?
you know what? When you go through something challenging and they're not there when you need them to be, right? Or, like it's easy to share your wins, right? Those are
Mhm.
exciting moments, but it's when you have a challenge, you need a hug, you need a cuddle, you need somebody there for you to help you physically with something, whatever it is, and they're not there. That can be a definite challenge. However, I will say anytime I've had something like that come up, he's gone out of his way to make sure that I'm as supported as he possibly can, and vice versa, right?
Is there an infinite amount of trust? Because there has to be, right? Like, have
Yeah,
you ever
yeah.
had some insecure moments?
Not with him, no, because you know what? If you're with the right person, they make you feel like you're the one, right? I've always kind of said though that if somebody cheats on me, that's their problem. And truly it is, right?
Right,
Because I know my value. And if they have to go out and do that sort of thing and, get their needs met, then there's something within them that's wrong, right?
right. But as women, we always take that on. And I can't
Yeah,
speak for men, obviously,
yeah.
but don't you find when someone has cheated on you or betrayed you that you take that and go, oh my God, what's wrong with me?
I think absolutely we always will, no matter what it is, right? We're always going to internalize that and because we get our validation that way. If somebody's cheating on you, then obviously there's something wrong, right?
Right.
But I've never felt that way with him. I don't know. I don't often feel like that though with partners. And I have had partners cheat, right?
Mhm.
My first husband did. And it's one of those things where it can spark jealousy and all that, but when you're with the right person, I think if they are making you feel loved, if you have that level of trust and security, it's not even something that crosses my mind, right? Now, I will say I'm sure there are women that there's been the odd time or two, right, where I'm like, ah, that chick wants him, whatever,
Right.
right? But I trust him enough, right? It would be the female that I'd be more like, oh, she's trying to hit on my guy, right?
Right.
But that's her problem.
Exactly, because he's with you.
Yeah.
Now, how have you felt like going back and forth? Like, do you love being in Australia or
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like a whole new world. I do love Canada though too. I think I love the summer in Canada and I love the summer in Australia, right? It's challenging because I really like being where Jamie is.
mhm,
I like how exotic it is or different than Canada it is. Um, at the same time, family, friends, my business, and my life is here in Canada, right? So I still really value what I do here, right? I find purpose. There's a sense of purpose for what I do here in Canada, right? With my business. And so I like the having both, and it's the best of both worlds.
And how's he coping? Do you know? Like, is
With
he
coming
struggling?
here or staying there. He doesn't like the cold,
Right.
and he's lived in Canada before for a number of years. And he has his Canadian citizenship. I think he loves Australia, right? And he loves the work he does. He loves the property he lives on. So he very much values that. I think we both also value our time apart,
Hmm.
right? There's something to be said about not having to see your partner all the time. You actually grow more fond of them. Distance does make the heart grow fonder,
Right.
right? Yes, there's challenges, but it allows that honeymoon stage to be there every single time we meet, right?
Just beautiful.
Yeah, I count down the days. It's
Yeah.
88 days or 87 days, I think, now until I see him in Calgary.
So,
Oh, no, sorry, that's in Australia.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So obviously you're not codependent at all. But if you were codependent, do
Yeah.
you think that you would struggle with that? Like, how
Well,
would
I think
you?
anybody that's codependent would struggle. You get codependent when you're in a relationship, right? That's you have to be in that relationship to have that codependency upon a person. But a codependency requires the other person to also be dependent on you, right? So
Right.
there's the two. We're interdependent, right? So we do want to be with each other. We want to make the effort, right? We choose every day to be with each other, meaning, we have to put in that effort where we're sending messages or making the phone calls or scheduling the video dates, right? We had one this morning. Both of us were exhausted, right? Because 12 hours difference.
Hmm.
He was ready for bed. I was not wanting to get up that early. But you do it,
You
right?
do it.
So it's really that interdependence that's what makes it strong for us. And that's what any healthy relationship really truly is.
Right. So is there a wedding in the
Oh
future?
God, no, I don't know about
Okay.
that. Yeah. So that's the thing, right? I've been divorced, right? So and he's going through his own stuff. So I think it's we're in it for the long haul and
Right.
we'll see how it goes. There's no rush on anything and there's no necessity for that sort of, a certificate, a piece of paper. I don't need that.
Right.
I need a solid partner that's there and committed in that sense, not some silly wedding or some ceremony like that. That doesn't mean as much to me. Yeah.
So for people that would be dating right now,
Mhm.
what's some advice you would give to someone newly out there in the
Uh,
dating world? And
Dating like through online on Bumble.
yeah, like yeah, or
Get off,
Tinder,
get
or yeah, get off.
off. Get off of it right away. Throw your phone away.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of take your time, actually date yourself for a while. Don't worry about what is going on in that sense on the apps and, make sure that you're just kind of focusing on your own life. And I took a number of years of where I was dating different guys. And it took a while until I decided to hold myself to a higher standard. And once I did, that's when I finally found the person that matched what I was looking for, right? Yeah, there's plenty of fish in the sea. That's more like a bunch of urchins on on Bumble and Tinder and all that, right?
Right.
So you got to stay away from those ones, certainly.
Did you always know what you were looking for, or did you find that
I don't think so.
now?
I think it takes time. I think you get to know what you don't want,
Hmm.
right? By dating people that aren't your match, you all of a sudden go, "Oh, I know what I don't want. I know I don't want that either." Right? And then all of a sudden what you do really is you look at all the people you've dated, you list out their positive qualities, right? Well, those are the things you're looking for. But then you list out all their negative qualities, right? Every single one of them. Then flip all those negative qualities, right? If they were untrustworthy, you want somebody trustworthy. If they were not hardworking, you want someone hardworking, right? And so you do their positives and their negatives, flip all their negatives, write it all out, and then you're going to kind of get that list of truly what you are looking for, right? So that's kind of the key. I think too, as we age and, you're getting over 35, 40 years old, it's important to know that we want someone more similarly matched to ourselves. When we're young, we date people that are our opposites, right?
Right.
Then that doesn't work out. You get a little older, now all of a sudden you realize I need somebody that's more like me. And the more similarly matched you are, the easier it's going to be going through that relationship, right? The other side of it, though, too, is boundaries, right? Knowing strongly what your own boundaries are and being willing to enforce those, hold those boundaries, because that's being in a relationship with yourself. And then being able to respect theirs. And I think that's a big thing. And
isn't it?
you know, the counseling I do, a lot of couple stuff, I see people that they don't respect their partner's boundaries. They don't even know their own boundaries often at times, right? But they certainly aren't respecting their partners. And that's such an important piece because again, it's interdependency. It's not codependency. We want to have our own lives. We want to go out each day and you know do the things that you know we find value in and then bring that back together at night or at the end of the week or a couple times a year like in my situation and then share all that stuff, right?
Right.
And kind of get to know that person through the eyes of what they've done in their life.
I think he nailed it with the boundaries because I've always struggled with that. And I used to get angry when other people had boundaries because I'm like, what the hell's that mean? Like, seriously, I have none. So
Yeah.
why do you have them? And now learning it's like so healthy to have them.
Yeah.
And I also find nowadays that people don't spend enough time really realizing what they're looking for in a relationship. Like we spend more time planning a trip than we do planning our life partner,
Mhm.
right? So
Certainly.
just even that, how you just said, like listing out all the qualities that you've liked in your past partners and what you haven't, I don't think enough of us do that, right?
I don't think we ever, you
Yeah.
know, we don't even do it for ourselves where we list our own qualities that we like and what we don't like. And it's reflection, right? So either self-reflection or reflection upon what we're going after. And I think it's such an important thing to do. Like, you know, the more we focus on an area of our life, the more energy we put into it. That's what we're going to solve, right? So if it's, you know, your education, you're focused on education, you're going to achieve whatever it is you're going for in education or work. Relationships are the same thing, right? If you focus on what you're wanting and how do we get that done? Do we go online dating, right? Do we go, we got our friends to introduce us to people? Do we list out the qualities we're looking for, right? Then all of a sudden that thing will evolve and we'll find it.
So
Sometimes before we want to.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
With you having your background in therapy and, just being couples counselor and all that, is it hard not to bring that part of your life into your own personal relationship?
So I'll be honest, I think that I've learned more through dating Jamie and from him to apply in counseling than I could bring to the relationship. Yeah, he's very up on what he's doing. He's like, I do find that because I'm a counselor, sure, I'm good at being able to tell other people what to do,
Right.
but am I good at always doing it myself? No. Like, say, speaking my truth, right? Like, if there's something bothering me in the relationship, I have a very hard time bringing it to the surface. I have a very hard time approaching that situation, you know, whereas, you know, without getting passive aggressive or something like that,
Mhm.
right? Whereas he's able to, when I have to approach him on something, he'll listen. Thank you for bringing that up. He'll say, I'm like, oh God.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Right. And then, you know, then, well, how can we solve this? Do you have any suggestions? And, you know, just going from there. Right. So he's really good at being able to do, to receive whatever it is that I might be voicing in the situation. Right. So with that said, for some reason, something in my past relationships, I bring forward that negative side of not being able to speak my truth. Right. Whereas he's always been able to kind of bring that out and help me kind of work through that. So I do feel that I've learned quite a bit through dating him that I can then bring into my sessions, right, with couples and talk to them about the importance of how to approach it, right?
So, when your friends learned about you dating a guy in Australia and you going to Australia, what was the feedback?
Well, like my best friend Takari, she is from Australia. Her dad lives there. She has citizenship and she's lived there a bit. Um, she thought it was great. Parents were kind of like, what? You know, mom didn't want me to, like, thought I was going to move there. My dad's like, oh, it'll be fun, right? Um, just don't sell your house. Don't get rid of your business. I think some people think I'm crazy, right? They're like, oh, that's a long distance relationship, or people believe it won't work out. And it's like, well, it'll work if I put in the effort and if he puts in the effort and we want it to work, right?
Hmm.
It might not be a stereotypical relationship, but it's what works for us. And um, truly, it's been one of the best relationships I've had so
Yeah.
far. Uh, So, it's interesting what people will judge, but I think when people are judging, it's more, like one finger's pointing at you,
Two fingers
three
back.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're looking at what would they feel comfortable with, right?
Right.
So I don't really give two shits about what they
What they
think.
think. And you've never really cared about
No,
that. So that's great.
exactly.
Do you, when you look at, I know you're a kind of girl that lives in the moment, but
Mm.
when you start thinking future, do you see like where's it gonna go? Do you
Yeah, so I'm applying for my permanent residency there in about 4 months' time, and that'll be through like a sponsored partner visa,
hmm
right? So he'll sponsor me as, his partner, a de facto relationship because we're not choosing to get married, that sort of thing. So that will be a process, and that's so that I can go and stay there as much as I want. But the idea is to do it while I'm here in Canada so that I can come back and forth from Canada and Australia because I don't want to move there permanently at this
Right.
point. I want to be able to kind of go 6 months, ideally. About 2 trips a year, 3 to 4 months at a time, sort of thing. And then eventually there's definitely a 5-year plan, but it's not necessarily living in Canada or Australia, right? It will be somewhere hot,
Right.
probably an island, right?
Right.
But definitely I'll always, come back and do my business here. I have the kids here. He has his kids here, all my family, right? And friends, and I do love Canada. So and then, yeah, I go back and forth there too. So he has his business ventures that he's doing down there. And then he does work over here sometimes too, right, with
Right.
his company. So it's one of those things where the intention, if all goes well, will be to eventually come together at some point. But over the next 3 to 5 years, I think it's really a lot of back and forth.
Right.
Mhm.
And is he as smitten with you as you
Oh,
are?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
I think
That's
so.
awesome. Okay, let's change subjects. This is like the best part of what's going on in your life.
Yeah, it is certainly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
I
I'm so
truly enjoy
happy
it.
for
Can I pour
you.
wine?
Yeah, of
Is
course.
that
We'll
allowed?
just see. That's kind of going through the cameras there.
There we go. All right.
We haven't done
This
this
is
before.
this is authentic,
Yes,
isn't
this is
it?
authentic. Um, what has been the most raw moment in your life,
Oh God.
if you had to just pick one?
Oh, a raw moment. I gotta think about that.
Maybe you might want to word it differently, like an aha moment or something that has
Ooh.
shaped you.
I think yeah, I think one, there's obviously been a few, but one of the most raw moments was when I was getting a divorce or when I was separating, and my husband and I just realized he was with someone else and had caught that situation, and I had left the scene of the crime.
Good way of putting it.
Yeah. I was out of there and I was sitting there and having a drink, and then he came back and he said to me, and because this is when you're splitting up with somebody, and again, it was, I think, a 12-year relationship, 2 kids involved, and it's so weird because you want out but you're on the fence of it all. By all means, don't worry, I won't lose my train of thought.
Yeah.
You're on the fence of it all, right? So you're trying to figure out what just happened. And it's so, such a surprise about what the scene of the crime that I did see. That he came in and I was, obviously saying things, and he was saying things, and he said, "Look, you just potentially ruined that situation for me." And all of a sudden, so aha moment, right? It
Wow.
was like a light bulb went off, and I went, "I ruined that for you. I ruined that for you." And it was the moment that I realized I did not ever want to be near that man again or married anymore. And it was such a good moment. It was like this, like, woo, like the angels started rejoicing because now all of a sudden I wasn't hurting anymore. I knew my path forward then was get the hell out of here. And boy, what a good moment that is, right? To finally realize that. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, thank God. right? Because there was no more heartache at that point. There was no more indecision. I was so decisive at that moment, and I was just able to kind of go forward. And I think it was only about 72 days later, the money was done, the separation agreement was done, and I was moved out of there. Yeah, and it was really a good thing because when I put my mind to it, right, it gets
Yeah.
done.
Now, would you say that because you seem very calm about it and you just knew the direction you wanted to go, were you better? Like, are you still bitter about that situation when you?
I'm not bitter about divorce. I'm actually quite um enthused about the fact that I ended that situation. I wouldn't be where I am today, right? I wouldn't be having the opportunities that I do. I wouldn't be running the business that I am. All that stuff happened as a result of getting away from that, right? I think I got into my power after I left that situation because I really feel like I was held down or,
Right.
dampened by that environment that I was in. Um, I don't think I'm bitter. I think I still hold a grudge in the sense that we're still, going at it. It's still there's still a lot of animosity between he and I, when it comes to over the kids and all that stuff,
Right.
right? But for the most part, I try to just put it to bed and not let that stuff bother me, right? Because
Right.
it's just life's too short to be living in the past, right? But it is certainly something that has shaped me
Right.
allows me to really kind of just love the moments that I'm in now currently, right? It does show you when you're in the wrong situation how good the right situation is. It
Right.
feels so much better.
I know you don't realize because in that moment you're with maybe the wrong person and you think, and we've had conversations about this, that you truly think that you're never going to find anyone else.
Hmm.
And then when you get out of that energy and you realize, holy crap, this is really good.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe how much time I wasted there,
Yeah.
right? But you get caught up in your own thoughts and
Yeah.
your own
The
situations.
thing is, though, is it puts you in the right time and place. It teaches you the right things that you need to know. Like I wouldn't be the person who I am today. I wouldn't be ready for the relationship I am today if it wasn't for all that crap that I went through for 12 years.
100%.
Right?
And you've got two boys, right?
Yeah.
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 And what's the relationship like with them?
It certainly has been strained at times. It's okay. My older one, he's almost 19, so going to university in the fall to Western. We've had a very close relationship, but now that he's the age that he is, it's certainly not as close as it was. My younger one, he's 16, almost 17 in September, and he's more like a mini me, I
Is
would
he?
say. Yeah, I think so. The more I get like see him grow up and stuff like that and see how he is, he's quite motivated to work and likes to keep busy. He's assertive. But that relationship's still pretty good, right? So,
Right.
but I'll be honest, I'm ready to hang up that mommy hat, right? I've been
See, a lot of people don't say that. That's another thing
yeah,
we've talked about. Like,
yeah.
it's okay to say, sometimes I don't want to be a mom.
Yeah, so I was 20 years old when I got I was gonna say knocked up, but pregnant. And I did my time. I feel I worked really hard. I worked full time as a nurse. I was the full-time worker out of the two of us.
Hmm.
And I had to do a lot. I had to do that whole mom role where moms are doing the birthday parties and
Hmm.
planning the vacations and all that sort of jazz, as well as going out and working full time. And I'm certainly exhausted at this point, and now I'm ready to live my life. So now that they're old enough and they're with their dad, have at her and let me go and live my life now, right? So
For you.
yeah,
For you, right? Like
it's a good
it's,
place to be.
yeah.
It really is.
Uh,
And I agree. A lot of women will not admit it because societal expectations say that we have that cross to bear of raising the children and doing everything that we need to do. And most women are not brave enough to say, yeah, no, I think I'd like to take a break now, right? It's okay for the dads to, only see their kids 2 days out of 14, but if it's the moms doing it, now all of a sudden there's something wrong with the moms. Well, that's not true.
Right.
so.
And I have to say that there's some incredible, incredible dads out there as
Mhm.
well that, have done amazing jobs. But yeah, I've been talking to a couple moms that are, their kids are younger and they say, you know what, I just don't like being a mom. And it's not that they don't like being a mom, they love their kids,
Sure.
but they love their career more.
Yeah.
And they feel like they can't say that because they're going to be judged.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but that's your truth.
Yeah.
And do you know how many other people actually feel that way, but just won't say it?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
most women I know,
yeah,
right? But I'm also not afraid to say it to them, and then they feel comfort in saying it back, right? And
100%.
talking about it. I think that's the thing with any hard topic is most people aren't willing to talk about it because they feel like they're going to be judged about it, right? It's like mental illness, right? Are we willing to talk about that? Oh God, there's a stigma attached to it because nobody wants to discuss it, nobody wants to admit it, all of that stuff, right? Where the career I've done, right? It's been all in mental health care and still is. And it's something that is still true to this day. Most people are still judging it in a negative way. Even the people that say that they're not, are they still find it a very taboo subject, right? Where it's something worth talking about, discussing, right? In counseling. Um, I counsel a lot of different types of people, and um, most people still find it very hard and challenging to even seek out that support, right? When really everybody should be.
Everybody should be. I always
Yeah.
say if you don't have a therapist, there's something wrong with you, right?
That's right.
Right back in the day, it's like no one
Yeah,
wanted to admit that they have a therapist. It's like laying on a couch and, being judged and whatever. But now I'm like, everybody needs one, right? Everybody
exactly.
needs somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
So, have you ever suffered from mental illness?
Certainly low mood, absolutely anxiety at times. Yeah, certainly. I think that everybody has.
Mhm.
I think it would be weird if you didn't. I per se I don't have a diagnosis and I don't have to take medication or anything like that, but I work hard every day to try and do the things that we need to do to stay mentally healthy. Exercise, eat right, all that stuff, enough sleep and meditation. And I listen to positive affirmations. I listen to all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Like when I want to work out, I'm listening to a bunch of angry men yelling at me, telling me to be motivated, right? Like all the time. I listen to it constantly just to keep myself in the right headspace because truly your thoughts are your reality, right? So if your thoughts are in a negative space, you're going to have a bad day, right? So I purposely listen to stuff to put myself in a positive space to have a good day, right?
Right.
So, even just the weather today, it's
I know.
very
Just
depressing, right? So,
But again, right? If you think it, then you're going to feel it, and
exactly, that's
therefore then
right.
it's going to be. But if you wake up and go, you know what, today's going to be a great day, right?
Exactly, that's right.
So, um, worst mom moment.
Worst mom moment?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a challenging one. I've never had one.
Oh, really? Me neither.
I'm a perfect mom. You know what? I think probably when my younger son wanted to move out to his dad's, and that was just before COVID. And it was a challenging time. It was surprising that well, I wouldn't say it was surprising. I knew he wanted to. And then finally push came to shove, right? Put his foot down, which again, he's like me, right? And so it was challenging to have him go, right, at first, because he was the first one to fly the nest. The second time, it wasn't as challenging. I think I was like, okay, you're good, you know,
Right.
let
You're
them go.
ready.
Yeah. It was challenging maybe for the first couple of weeks to a month at first when I was like, oh, my kids don't live here. What does that say about me? Right? That was the first thing that went through my head. What does that say about me?
Interesting.
Right? Oh yeah, I think as a mom you go through that moment, right? Am I a bad mom? Do they not like me? And then I went, oh, wait, maybe they want to live with their dad, right? Like maybe this is, okay and acceptable. And then I was talking to people, counseling, all that stuff. I started to discover that it was, something that they needed to do maybe for themselves. Then the other side of it was learning what it was like to not have responsibility anymore. And
Yeah.
yeah, it did take long to not have to do extra laundry, not have to buy extra groceries, not have to cook and clean up after other people, and just to be able to walk around my house naked if I wanted to, not worry, right?
Right.
It was just whatever I needed to do, I could do. And that was an ultimate
Could you imagine
realization.
going back? Like now, if they want to
No,
come back and
no.
live with you, what are you gonna do? We'd be like, not a chance.
I'm in Australia.
Yes,
Sorry.
right. There's the answer. There's
I'm
the
not
answer.
here. Yeah.
Um, would you say that you're a good friend?
Mhm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would think so. I guess I'd have to ask my friends if I'm a good friend, but I would think that I'm a pretty decent friend in that sense. Yeah.
I would say you are.
Oh,
You've been
thank
a
you.
great friend to
Thank
me, so
you.
I am happy to have you in my life.
Yeah.
And one word to describe you.
Dynamic.
I like it.
Yeah.
Is that a word that came from you or someone described you that way?
Yeah. I think it's a word that I relate to myself in that sense, right? I tend to be pretty dynamic in what I do, who I am, how I am, who I hang out with, right? And yeah, I think it's just it's an all around good word to describe the type of person I am.
You are.
Yeah,
I hold it back.
kind of dynamic.
Kind of dynamic
Yeah,
in many ways. Um, question for you. Do you have a fear of dying?
certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think not at the end when I'm like 80, 90 years old. I'm good with that,
Right.
right? But I'm not ready to die now. I'm not done with the earth yet. I'm not done with my experiences. Um, Especially because I'm like I have the world by its ass right now, right? I am now in like some of the best moments of my life, I feel.
Mhm.
And so I want to like go and live it up. I certainly wouldn't want to miss out on this part, right?
Right. That's the best part of it.
Exactly,
Have a good
right?
time.
Yeah.
If you could put every single person that you have ever met, dead or alive, in one room, and you could only look for one person, who would you look for?
My grandfather Donovan.
And why?
I think because he was so influential in my life at such a young time. And I think you know, for somebody that I wish I had gotten to know longer, I never got to, only till I was 16.
And what would you ask him? What's the first thing you'd do?
Oh, did I make you proud? Yeah.
Sweet.
Mhm.
Do you feel him with you?
Often.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I would say so.
If you were to look at your life from the time that you can remember, back to your childhood to the point you're at now, um, do you look at something and go, well, I'm not proud of that?
Um, some of the times when I was married, probably about that's about it. Most of my life I don't regret, or like especially childhood, that was easy stuff. But some of the younger years of when me and my ex were together, right? Because we fought, we didn't get along, but we were young when we started, you know, 20, 21, up until I was, I don't know, 35, 36 or something like that, in and around there. And yeah, like some of those, especially towards the end of our relationship, it wasn't our prime moments for either of us in our
Right.
life.
Would you, if you could go back, would you do it way
God, I
different?
wouldn't want to do that again. Never again.
Ever again?
Let's not go back there. We're moving forward. We're falling forward. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Do you see him still
God,
or
no.
no?
I try not to.
You don't
Yeah.
talk to him or anything?
Not really. No.
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 That's
Not at
good.
all. Yeah.
That's good.
There's a lawyer. You can talk to the lawyer. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Um, Someone asked me to ask you this
Oh,
question.
geez.
So
Oh.
when we kind of put out, so if you had, so Counselor Kristy,
Mm.
Pottery Kristy,
Hmm.
and then Kristy,
Oh, geez. All three different people.
all three did.
Yeah.
So how does how do you define and like, do you find that you're the same person throughout all three of those? I don't know if I'm asking this question properly, but do you,
They're all different hats that I'm wearing. Um, the authentic Kristy comes out, who you see right here, this is authentic Kristy, right? I'm not afraid to say anything. Um, when it comes to counseling, I sometimes have to refine that a little.
right,
I have to soften myself, is the big thing I learned with that in mental health care, in counseling. I have to be a little softer because I can be a hard edge, right? And so I've learned that, I need to soften that edge and be a little bit more compassionate, empathetic, and listen more, try to put myself in somebody's shoes that isn't the same personality as me. Pottery Kristy reads the room. I'm there for a good time. Usually
right,
I like to have fun, and that's kind of my outlet. I can be my authentic, fun-loving self. At the same time, depending on the type of people that I'm around, I might again have to soften myself
right,
into that sort of counselor type role. But definitely underlying authentic Kristy is always there. Even in a challenging situation in counseling, you're going to get the true me coming through. I'm going to tell you what I honestly think and feel that resonates with me in the most compassionate way that I can, because you're going to want to hear it. You're not going to want something that's not authentic. You're not going to want me to sugarcoat things, because if you're in counseling, you do really need to get the reality of what's going on. With that said, there are times where I won't always say what I'm feeling because I shouldn't,
right.
right?
Is
But
that hard for you to hold that back?
it can be,
Yeah.
right? And then I just sip my tea, right?
Is it really tea that you're drinking?
Always when it's counseling.
Yeah.
This is not tea.
No, we know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like wow, we just covered a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any questions that you were thinking I should ask you?
No, I don't think so.
No, you
No,
were just succinct and to the point, and that's like, yeah, I'm just grateful to have you here and thank you for
absolutely.
being here. And yeah.
Let's get